are gonna add up.
Yeah, almost half actually. And now you get in the swap on the aerial ace. A ridiculous catch by Caleb Peng.
Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. Like in my last video I mentioned, I'm doing an in-depth breakdown of my strategies and rationale of what I ran in Portland and just my team breakdown. Specifically, why Bastiodon is actually really strong in this meta. And you know, I made Bastiodon work to 2 separate grand finals before this, but overall it was mainly used as bench pressure / I just kind of wanted to run it for fun. But in this specific meta, it's actually probably the best meta for Bastiodon that there really ever has been. And there's a few reasons for that, so I'm going to talk about that before I actually dive into the footage and analyze that. But for starters, there's a lot of matchups that are very polarizingly in favor of Bastiodon. There's always been matchups that have been polarizing not in favor of Bastiodon and been bad for Bastiodon, but not as many that are super good. Obviously stuff like Altaria, Skarmory, Noctowl, those are matchups that are really good for Bastiodon back in the day, but those are pretty much it. There weren't a lot of hard-wing matchups and, a few of the fairies. But nowadays, it's actually quite different. So, for starters, you have an increased usage in Azumarill, both the bubble buff, but also because it just has a lot of play in a Poliwrath meta and in a meta where Medicham doesn't have Psychic, and because the main electric type is Charge Bugs and Lantern. So less Lantern means that Azumarill has more play. So overall, Azumarill, hard wall by Bastiodon. A lot of people opting for Azumarill over the Lantern, over some anti-flyers as well, over some steel types. You'll find that a lot of teams don't even have Registeel or Alolan Sandslash. They just have Skarmory for the steel type or no steel types in general. And they're relying on Azumarill for anti-Gligar check. So more Azumarill, better for the meta, especially because there's less Lantern. Lantern was a matchup that Bastiodon just did not win. Similar to Lantern is that Charge Bug is more meta relevant now as electric type over Lantern. So again, another hard winning matchup that Bastiodon can take advantage of, whereas before people were opting for Lantern in that slot. So 2 additional really solid matchups in the meta. On top of that, Grass is pretty much extinct. I faced one person with Grass the entire tournament in Portland, and just Grass usage in general has dropped significantly. That partially is probably due to Charge Bug picking up in usage, as well as Gligar still being super prominent and Skarmory being back in the meta being super relevant. So because of that, Grass types had some play into Bastiodon in the past, right? Especially Shields Up, Venusaur, Trevenant, even Serperior had some play in those matchups. Now you're replacing those grass types with Lickitung, with Cresselia, which means that, again, 2 hard-winning matchups for Bastiodon, whereas before, they were kind of neutral matchups. And yes, it wasn't bad for Bastiodon, but it wasn't amazing either. It wasn't incredibly dominant. On top of that, speaking of Lickitung, instead of using Umbreon now, Lickitung's pretty much the go-to bulk-type Pokemon that is weak to fighting. You don't really see much Umbreon anymore, and partially that's because of an increased usage in Azumarill, and because of that, Lickitung has a lot more play, and having Lickitung as that main bulky Pokemon helps Bastiodon quite a bit, because Umbreon was able to still hit back against Bastiodon and make it kind of close, even though it's still in favor of Bastiodon. With increased usage of Skarmory as well in this current meta, yes, Gligar is still around, and the usage is actually still quite high for Gligar because you're mixing a Skarmory into the mix of things, and maybe occasionally, once in a while, Talonflame. The Flyers are much more favorable for Bastiodon this season than last season, because last season was pretty much just Gligar. So you have a lot more play in those situations. But you can also make the argument that Registeel is also really relevant in this meta, and I would agree with you. The main trade-offs for Registeel is the occasional Trevenant you're going to struggle with a lot more if you face that, but again, I don't think you're going to see a lot of Trevenant. However, what's more common that you'll probably see is Charge Bug, and then maybe a sprinkle of Skeledirge. And those 2 matchups, Bastiodon's going to thrive a lot more. And then also, of course, there might be a few Talonflame here or there, but for the most part, you're probably going to see Skeledirge and Charge Bug more, and those are not as favorable for Registeel. However, on the trade-off of that is you win the head-to-head matchups against a lot of the Steel types, and you're going to be much better in the Bastion head-to-head matchup. And of course, you have a little bit more play into Vigoroth and Deoxys Defense, and you even have the Zap Cannon for that Poliwrath. So Registeel is also another alternative, but I'm just kind of really highlighting why Bastion's not a bad pick in this meta. In fact, it actually helped me win numerous games in this meta, and I actually felt more comfortable running it than any of my past Grand Finals tournament runs. We're going to go and break down the actual footage for the matchups and kind of the strategies and why I did run what I ran, and we'll hopefully help you understand how to use the team if you want to use it for your future tournament. Before we get into the battles, I want to give a big shout out and thank you to all my patrons who've been supporting my content creation. If you'd like private one-on-one coaching, scrims against me, some of my league guides and strategies ahead of time, or even tune into my live stream battles, feel free to sign up through the Patreon link down below. In my first matchup, I'm going against Zimbohanen, and he is, from what I know, played in a lot of local tournaments, but this is his first regional, so definitely a big moment for sure. I think he had a first round bye, or he had a no-show, I guess, first round, and now had a first round bye due to the recent seeding structure. So obviously this is my team, and overall, someone could probably say it's a little bit weak to Whiscash, but in my opinion, I don't think it's that bad. You got Azumarill, Poliwrath, Lickitung with all fairly positive matchups to varying degrees, and then Gligar has interesting play if you shield the Scald. But obviously nothing like not a true hard counter because there's no grass, and honestly most teams don't have grass types. So on Zimbo's side, looking at his team, there's really only 2 hard checks to Bastion, which is Whiscash and Poliwrath. Both are very hard checks though. Outside of that, he has 4 losing matchups. Pretty hard losing matchups too, actually. So Bastion actually has a decent amount of play. But I will say, in all honesty, day number 1, I was a little bit hesitant bring Bastiodon. I didn't even fully comprehend how strong it is in this current meta, even though I did some scrims with it, but just in actual tournament setting, I was kind of still leaning towards my old days of Bastion Show 6, where you kind of bring it in once in a while. That being said, I lead Lickitung into Poliwrath, which is not a great matchup for sure. And then in comes Cresselia, which surprised me a little bit because these are pretty much my 2 best matchups, Cresselia and Poliwrath. So even if the third was something that was kind of soft to it, like maybe an Altaria or his own Charge Bug, he still has a little bit more play. But we talked about it after this game, and it was a miss swap. Try to swap in the Whiscash instead. That being said, I'm going to shield the Future Sight because I did see the Poliwrath. So unless he shows his third Pokemon, this Charge Bug is going to have a ton of play into the Poliwrath as well. And then recognizing the counts here, I'm just going to not shield the Grass Knot. Yeah, overall, this composition is fairly meta from Zimbo's side. Obviously, Skeldurge, not super common. But this team definitely has similar components to Doombug in some shape and way. So nothing too crazy. But yeah, at this point in time, pretty much I have really solid matchup. And I have the Azumarill that pretty much walls off the Poliwrath. And in a pretty good spot. I believe he even throws up a shield right here. Yeah, so we see the shield. And this one's going to be played out pretty simple after this. So theoretically, if he did swap in the Whiscash, my goal is to potentially grab a shield off of Zimbo. And something I notice is teams that don't really have a Gligar, typically their best check to Charge Bug is that Whiscash. And Whiscash is pretty strong into Charge Bug, but there is definitely some interesting play with Charge Bug they can do depending on how fast they swap, depending on if they get debuffs on the Scald or not. The excess damage does add up quite a bit. And I am going to go for a Power Whip. Looks like he is going to throw the Scald beforehand. I don't even think I threw the Power Whip at that point in time. Let's see if I do or not. Yeah, it is. Okay, so and I believe he might shield this. Am I not mistaken? Yeah, he does shield it. But Azuma's in the back, so I'm in a pretty comfortable spot, especially with the shield still up. Obviously, he does have the Skeldurge for the Charge Bug. However, given my team composition, I mean, I got Zumaro, I got Lickitung, I got Bastiodon. Gligar's not bad into it. Poliwrath has win cons into the Skeldurge. It's pretty hard to bring Skeldurge into my team. So that's why my first line composition was that Charge Bug Safe Swap. I felt like there's probably a small chance that the Skeldurge actually does come into play. At least in the first game. But yeah, so that's going to be that for this one. But like I said, though, I don't think Zimbohanen's team is super off meta by any chance. Excuse me. And you can see right off the bat, Bastiodon has 4 very positive wins. And again, that's, like I said earlier, that's pretty much goes to show this current meta, right? Bastiodon before, even though it had like wins, they were kind of soft wins. But now in this meta, the soft wins have turned into a lot of hard wins. So just Cresselia, Altaria, Skeldurge, Charge Bug. There's just no way you could possibly flip a matchup with Bastiodon, even if I'm slow on the swap. And so it's, again, really, really strong into a lot of teams. And you could say it's RPS, but honestly, if it is, the RPS is very in my favor because you're bringing 2 scissors or 2 papers to 4 my rocks when you have 4 scissors yourself, right? So the odds in general are pretty good. So in the second game, I do end up deciding to bring in Bastiodon. I realized, hey, you know what? It's actually kind of strong. And the Safe Swap Lickitung is actually pretty good. Not much beats it outside of the Poliwrath. So I figured I could draw the Poliwrath guaranteed for sure if I say swap the Lickitung. Of course, if he has a Poliwrath, let's say he has a Charge Bug Poliwrath Whiscash, then I'm just hard counter throughout, and my odds of winning are pretty low anyway. But he has to have the perfect line composition for that situation. And we end up coming Bastiodon into Cresselia, which is pretty nice. It is a future sight Cresselia, so that's why I didn't bring in the Lickitung, because Cresselia does have win cons against the Lickitung, especially up a Psycho Cut too. So this is really the best part about Bastiodon, is that your wins are hard wins, and there's just not room for them to flip switch. Whereas Lickitung, you counter swap, you might have to shield a future sight to win that, and then the Poliwrath gets some value there. I mean, anytime the opponent can grab a shield off you when they safe swap, even if they don't win the switch advantage, it sets them up for a potential win con. If you're on shield parity, then it's a lot harder for them to do that. And of course, if you're up a shield and have switch advantage, then there's pretty much no way they win. It's possible, but it's very unlikely. I'm going to be a little patient on this just because I don't want the Poliwrath to overfarm me a ton, which is why I don't typically throw with my Bastiodon until later. The tough part about Poliwrath in this meta as the main fighter is that it resists all the charge attacks, whereas Magic at least still takes neutral from Flamethrower. Doesn't do too much, but the energy doesn't realistically have a lot of places to go. However, he does try to go for a catch, and doesn't happen, so does lock it into the Poliwrath. And at this point in time, I'm feeling pretty good because, hypothetically, if there's a Whiscash in the back, I'm fine with the Lickitung, the health I have on my Zumaro, and if it's something else, I'm fine too, because then there's really no other check to Bastiodon. So that's why I try not to farm up too much. I'm just going to take this out right away. I don't want any potential for Zimbo to be able to pivot this out and lock it into the Bastiodon. Especially because my Bastiodon still has a lot of energy. Cresselia does reach a Grass Knot before I get to my attack, but that's okay. I'm going to save the shield for the Lickitung because I don't really want to be in a situation where Lickitung is struggling against a Whiscash down a shield. And like I said, no matter what's in the back, Poliwrath was really the only thing that truly checked my Lickitung on this team. So I knew Lickitung was going to be in a good spot. Ends up being Skeldurge, which is a little bit weird because all of my charge attacks are resisted. But I should definitely be in a pretty solid position unless he was up shields by any means. That being said, I still have to move on the Bastiodon, so I knew I'll be okay. Biggest part here is just to not mess up my optimized timings. But yeah, overall, honestly, this was probably a really good game to bring Bastiodon both games, but for the game I did bring in, it was quite nice. But yeah, again, I mean, if you look at this too, right? There's a sprinkle of fire types like Skeldurge, maybe Talonflame from time to time. Bastion positive matchup there. Pretty much no grass in this meta at all. I faced one person with a grass type Pokemon the entire tournament, and grass usage was at a pretty much an all-time low. So you got Lickitung and Cresselia replacing that grass role. Incredibly positive matchup for Bastiodon there. Bastiodon is going to struggle a little bit at times. Shields up into Venusaur and Trevenant. Maybe even Superior at times, but you just don't struggle at all into the Lickitung, Cresselia, Azumarill. No Azumarill on this team, but a lot instead of Lantern, people that pick the bulky water type will typically go for Azumarill, or if they go for electric type, they go for Charge Bug instead of Lantern. Again, two very polarizing matchups in favor of Bastiodon, whereas Lantern was able to actually beat Bastiodon consistently, regardless of his Spark or Water Gun. Looking at Rubik's Master's team, again, one that I kind of neglected. And like I said, day one, I was kind of not using Bastiodon to its full potential. If you look at this team, 5 out of 6 of his Pokemon lose to Bastiodon to 0 shields. The 3 of them just loses straight up in all shielding situations. Trevenant, for the most part, is going to favor Bastiodon. You really have to land some Shadow Balls to make that work, especially and maybe be up a Shadow Claw or so. But Alolan Sandslash will beat Bastion shields up for sure. But again, in 0 shields, you beat 5 shields up. You hard beat 3 and have really solid play into the 4th. So this is a really solid Bastion game. But overall, this entire series against Rubik's Master, part of it is probably just nerves. I'm like, dude, this guy's really good. He's only lost to Accent. He's second in the world at World Championships. So part of it was nerves. The other part was I was focusing a lot on Charge Bug being good, but I didn't really capitalize on the Bastiodon. I was just worried about Registeel because I knew I was a little bit soft to Registeel in general with this team. Did not account for the Trevenant lead. Because I figured, I knew I was going to swap out if it was Trevenant lead, but I didn't realize how solid of a matchup this is still for Trevenant, especially shields up, especially up a Shadow Claw. So really good lead call by Rubik's Master, and obviously I didn't know his backline at the time, but he is definitely ABA weak to Gligar. He actually didn't even bring a Gligar check, soft check in the Cresselia, but that's just kind of neutral at best. But I guess he just expected I wouldn't bring it with the Mana Buzz, Alolan Sandslash, and Azumarill, 3 positive matchups against Gligar. So I think it's a pretty smart strategy and gamble by him, and obviously paid off. And unfortunately, I just can't win Switch, which, yeah, not the best case situation. Yeah, I knew that this was going to be thrown. Probably should just came in with... Yeah, I don't know. At this point, it's just really tough because I knew I was going to win Switch, so maybe I save a little bit of health on the Charge Bug for a catch later. Ends up coming in Registeel, which is really, really bad on multiple fronts, not only for Lickitung, but I am shields down on the Poliwrath. I just say overall, my first team composition into Rubik's Master was just really poorly constructed. I don't think it was that good. I was scared of the Registeel for sure, which is why I was kind of ABA strong into it, but yeah. He just played really well. And another misplay by me here is I don't really wait on my Switch timer. And I'm already going to get one shot by the Registeel anyway. But I knew my Switch timer wasn't fully up, and I just kind of got impatient, came in. And that just sets me up to get one shot from a Zap Cannons, which, again, like I said, this series and overall, I think my entire weekend was probably my most poorly played set. I do have a little bit of health on Charge Bug, but I didn't even know what was in the back, but I figured that's something that probably beats Poliwrath. I'm just going to try to take this out so I could potentially see the third, but he ends up catching on the Trevenant. A little flex play there too, but really solid play as well because it makes it harder for me to predict what's in the back. My guess is it probably was either a Azumarill or a... I guess it could have been Alolan Sandslash too, a little ABB action. But it's either that, yeah, it could have been Azumarill, the Alolan Sandslash, or Cresselia. Ends up being Cresselia for sure. I didn't know until after I looked at the footage. But I just knew that it had to be something that I actually thought it was Azumarill because I figured it was something that had to beat Gligar, given that he was ABA weak to it. But I didn't realize that he was going to go that weak to it. Game number 2, we decided to go Lickitung to Registeel lead, which... not a great call, but I figured something makes my Charge Bug safe swap a little bit more safe. I figured that he would think I need switch advantage, and I mean, Lickitung into Registeel kind of do, right? So I thought that he would potentially bait C-Bomb on this first one, 2 shields up. But he goes straight for the Shadow Ball, which props to him. You know, it's a good call, and honestly, if he's up shields, he could potentially land Zap Cannon on my Poliwrath, which is my main true check to the Registeel. I mean, I did have Gligar too, but I at least grab a shield off with the xXR, which could set me up for a potential win condition for sure. Obviously, if he has a Zoomer or Alolan Sandslash in the back, I just lose. But anything else, I have some play. Mana Buzz would be a little bit tough. He ends up bringing the same 3, except just different order. So I do have a slight win condition in this situation. But again, he went ABA weak to Gligar, which I did not expect him to go so much ABA, but it definitely worked out, especially with alignment. So now he comes in Cresselia, and at this point I'm thinking, okay, I have a little bit of play. Obviously, I could tank one of the Grass Knots. So I'm just going to let it go. And yeah, he didn't even build up to the Future Sight, so I knew that I'm in a pretty okay spot. I guess it's actually a pretty smart play because at the point after the cycle cuts, 2 Grass Knots is enough. There's no point really throwing the Future Sight at that point with this many shields up because, yeah, he still has to throw another move. Good shield by him to shield a dig as well. But this does clear the way for me to guarantee land a dig on the Registeel. Again, this is partly just the nerves as well, right? Like there's really no excuse for me to lose count of what energy had. And overall, I have a generally good idea, but I think I got nervous again. It's game 2, down 1 game, and I decided to throw my energy a little bit sooner than I should. What I should be doing is farming as much as possible and throwing a charge attack priority. I can even throw the dig if I think he's going to go for a catch on the Registeel when I get to charge attack priority, just to ensure that I land a dig. But yeah, I throw the aerial ace way too soon. I need that energy on my Gligar for sure. So definitely misplay by me. And we are going to throw a dig. It's going to do a decent amount of damage. But the problem is I just don't have the energy for another one. If I overfarmed, I'd be closer to dig, and I could potentially pivot out and then force him to have to make a huge undercharge play on my Lickitung. But really good play by him to just throw this. And again, if I had more energy, that would have probably been the win condition. So now my win condition is landing 2 body slams. But as you know from the results, that's not the case, and I don't make it. But yeah, like I said, misplays in both games. First game was probably unwinnable anyway, based on my team composition. But the second game was very, very winnable, in my opinion. Even if I didn't lead Gligar into an ABA team, I definitely had a lot of play to close it out. So really well played by him. And it was actually after this game, he was like, I'm surprised he didn't bring Bastiodon to my team. And I'm thinking, well, why would I? That Registeel is so polarizing for it, right? I was just a little nervous about it. But you'll see on my day 2 footage that I did end up bringing Bastiodon because it's so strong. This is a team that Beach ran, and it's actually the same exact team as Obinov. And again, it's a team that Bastion's really strong into, but day 1, I was just too afraid to bring it. 3 hard win matchups, Chargebug, Lickitung, Azumarill. 1 hard lose matchup, which is a Whiscash. Shadow Gligar and Vigoroth are definitely losing matchups for sure in all even shields, but I have play into them. Which is why I actually brought Bastiodon quite a bit into Obinov in the grand finals. Maybe a little too much in that reset, but we'll talk more about that later. But Bastiodon, again, looks actually really strong into this team. I just mentally, I wasn't in the mindset to bring Bastiodon, especially against really top tier players like Beach, XXRubixMasterXx, etc. Because I just thought that they could really punish me if I don't position it correctly. But I mean, if I'm thinking about it logically, I'm in a good position to like catch something with it. So we have a pretty good lead here. So I'm definitely going to stay in, and I'm just going to let him throw first. So I could easily optimize after the play rough to get all the licks in. But yeah, my thought here was outside of the Vigoroth, my Lickitung lead has really good play. Wins against a lot of his team, actually. It has win conditions against 4 of them. Whiscash, Azumarill, Gligar, Chargebug. And then it has, obviously, a neutral play in the mirror. and then it just loses the Vigoroth, but that's fine. So I figured I'd catch actually a pretty solid matchup here. And this is something that I recognized when I faced Beach, and then something I kind of neglected when I faced Albinov. And like I said, they were in the same team. But that is definitely one slight weakness to the team, because unless they're bringing Vigoroth, it's not as clean. Okay, and then I pivot over to my Azumarill. Why was I doing this? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I probably could just came into Azumarill after the fact. But yeah, maybe I draw the Charge Bug. I think maybe that was the play. I draw the Charge Bug, and then my Glider got overfarmed quite a bit. Ends up not being a Charge Bug in the back though. And no Lickitung either, actually. Okay, so yeah, I think it's just because I have 2 counters to Vigoroth, so I'm ABB to it, so I'll just pivot out and not give the Vigoroth too much energy. Save the Lickitung for a potential sack swap later, if need be. But yeah, I'm not going to shield anything. I'm thinking worst case scenario, it's a Whiscash in the back for my Gligar, which it ends up being. So I need both shields for that, of course. Just because the Mudsharks aren't doing much. If you shield the Scalds, you could potentially pivot out too, but the shields are up so that you don't have to actually tank one. He does come in with the Whiscash as expected, and he goes straight for the Scald, as most Whiscash do, so I'm going to definitely shield it. The Mudshot damage is not doing much, and I know that my Glider could definitely tank at least 1 Scald. I got a little lucky on the first attack, not debuffing me. And then I'm going to throw the Aerial Ace Bait. I figured this is probably a pretty safe shield from him. And if not, I still do some decent chip damage. And eventually he's going to have to start shielding Aerial Ace. But yeah, he actually goes for the Mud Bomb bait, which I did not expect. But it was actually a really good play by him. Because it allows him to get to that Scald before I have my Switch Timer up for sure. I don't know. He might still get to it even if he doesn't bait there. Let's see how close he is. I do throw another Aerial Ace Bait though, so I guess I potentially, yeah, I don't know. I think I might be able to switch out if, and try to catch a Scald or just switch out in general if he didn't bait me with the Mud Bomb. So really good call there. All right, but like I said, I do hang on, and then my whole play here was to save the energy, the dig, so that as long as I put him in dig range, or even Aerial Ace range at this point, I'm fine. But I guess I could have also just gone for the Power Whip. I didn't realize that his play was just going for the farm down at this point. That's definitely what he was doing. Really smart play by him, though, to get the double Scald. And he does have both. I'm bringing the Zimbohanen because I figured he's pretty much in bubble range if he doesn't throw his energy. And at this point, I wasn't really keeping track of his energy on Whiscash, but I was just like, well, I'm going to win Charge Attack priority anyway. So here it comes. And then I unfortunately couldn't get my attack off. And I talked about, well, I don't know if I talked about it specifically, but you can see in the actual day footage that we discussed it over, and he actually conceded the match. The Charge Attack priority is pretty IV dependent at this point in time. I was asking Doombug, I was like, I didn't get the move off there. He's like, yeah, I'll take a look at it too. And yeah, it was definitely like a one turn desync on the switch in. From kind of player perspective, the judges can't actually look at your IVs and make a ruling off of that. Well, that's first and foremost. Second, they can't actually do a def win, so they can only grant a rematch, but they can't actually grant an actual win off of that. So that has to be a player discretion situation, which we've seen a few times in the past, but not commonly seen. So we discussed it a little bit. I was discussing with Beach as well, our specific IVs. And we didn't have any Charge Attack priority situations in the actual head-to-head matchup, so it would have to just be based off of our words. But I don't have a rank 1 Shadow Gligar by any means. It's okay ranked, but it's not a rank 1. And I don't remember exactly his rank on Whiscash, but he did say that he had a really high rank 1. So in realistically speaking, he should be losing that specific Charge Attack priority situation. And so, yeah, really shout out to him for the sportsmanship and conceding that matchup when he could just got a rematch. And I think most people would understand why we go for the rematch, especially because we're not actually pulling apart IVs and comparing it on stage. But yeah, really good sportsmanship from him to do that, and definitely something that's I think is good for the actual integrity of the game and something that, you know, I definitely advocate for sure. But it is within a player's right to just take the rematch if they'd like to. And that's pretty much that. So that's pretty much how that situation going. I gave him a little fist bump when he did concede, just because good show of sportsmanship there on his end. Me personally as well, if that was me, I would concede as well. Not only just because it's probably the right thing to do, but it's just not a kind of win I want. I'd rather kind of earn it on my own. All right, he does win Charge Attack priority in this Charge Bug mirror matchup. And I'm thinking that if he has a Gligar on the back, he probably would swap to it. I'm thinking maybe he has Gligar and Whiscash, and he has like 2 checks to Bastiodon, just like the last game in the back. So I'm thinking, okay, he might not have Gligar in the back. And even if he has something like a Licton, he'd probably swap out eventually and save the Charge Bug for something else. But no, he actually did have Gligar in the back and Lickitung. Because I was able to land that first Xixer, I know that I could just go for the Volt Switch down, even though I'm not going to win Charge Attack priority. So that's pretty much why I just went for the Switch advantage, because if he does have a Gligar in the back, I really want the Zimmer on it. I'm definitely ABA weak to Gligar as well. Couldn't get the Volt Switch down, so I'm going to swap to my Zimmer. Going down 2 shields is pretty bad, even if he does have a Gligar on the back. I mean, he has a Lickitung too, and just up 2 shields, Lickitung could still beat Poliwrath as well. So I would have been in a bad spot if I didn't swap or shield, or if I just tanked and just let my Charger Bug go at that point. That would have been bad too. I guess in other plays, I could just throw 1 Volt Switch before he gets to the move, but then he could shield and then he would switch, right? So my whole Volt Switch down strategy wouldn't work out quite well. He does come in with Lickitung, and because I'm down a shield, I pretty much just have to tank all the energy and not spend my final shield. My worst case scenario at this point in time is a Gligar on the back, because Charger Bug's already out of the way. Zoomerl is okay, but I have energy on my Charger Bug, and that matchup with Poliwrath is not too bad if I start debuffing it quite a bit, but up a shield definitely is still a little bit troublesome if it's Zoomerl. So obviously Zoomerl is probably the second worst case scenario, Gligar being the worst by far, just because it paces so quick. Because of that, I swapped to my Poliwrath for sure to get a little bit extra energy against him. I'm up 2, which means that I will Charge Attack priority on the first Aerial Ace. Actually, no, maybe I was up 3. Yeah, I guess I was up 3. So we do get to the Ice Punch before he gets to the Aerial Ace, which is quite nice. So I got another counter through when he throws this Aerial Ace, which means that I will Charge Attack priority on the second Icy Wind. So I pretty much need to shield this because I need the shield down on Gligar to have any chance in the world. He swaps a little bit early, which is nice. So gives me a little bit of hope here because I do come away with energy, but I know that he does get to Aerials before I get to my third Ice Punch. And there's really no way for me to swap out this matchup either. Luckily, he doesn't overfarm too much. So I have a little bit of play, but you can see I'm just taking notes on how much energy he has. I think I actually wrote down the wrong energy. I wrote down that he had a little bit more than he did, but you know, things like that happen. All right. So I come in with Charger Bug, and we do get an Xixer off. And at this point in time, I knew that I had to pause to be able to even catch, because he's going to throw it in between the Volt Switch, and I do make the pause catch play that I was hoping for, which yeah, really worked out. Kind of had to dig myself out of the hole in that one. There's really no other win condition at that point. My line prediction of him was just not on point at that point, but yeah, just kind of had to make some plays there. But yeah, that was day number 1, and then we make it into top 12 for day number 2. And again, shout out to Beach for his sportsmanship, especially in that game number 1. He was running the same team as Abhinav, so we'll definitely see that team composition a little bit later. But I went to day 2 with a very different mindset. Practice only for Rubik's Master's team. And we see again, and I realized, you know what? Not only was he ABA weak to Gligar, but he was actually very weak to Bastiodon. So I decided to bring Bastiodon into this first game because there's a few things to note. He was ABA weak to Gligar in both games on day 1. So he's definitely smart enough to realize that I know that. So he's probably going to bring something that beats Alolan Sans, beats the Gligar. So there's a few options there, but in all likelihood, he's not going to lead the Regiseal. So catching him in an ABA situation or catching a Regiseal with Gligar is a little bit hard in that first lead matchup. So that's why I decided to lead Bastiodon. And after not bringing Bastiodon at all on day number 1 against him, but also just in general against opponents, he's probably actually expecting me to just use Bastiodon as bench pressure like I usually do in these tournaments. But I decided to play a different game this time, and I do bring Bastiodon the lead, catch a fantastic lead. He does have Mana Buzz and Alolan Sandslash with 2 Gligar checks, but yeah, this is kind of poor swap on me. It took me a little bit long to swap, but a little bit desync as well. Made the timing a little bit harder for him, so it allows me to get a full Volt Switch too, which is nice. He does go for the Ice Punch bait. I know my Charge Bug can definitely tank 1 Drill Run, but I just don't want to be hit by Drill Run and then get hit by baits afterward. Feel like it's a pretty safe xXR bait because the Volt Switch damage is adding up quite a bit, and he knows that he probably needs alignment too. And as a Bastiodon user, he knows I know that I need alignment. So once I'm shielding these, I figure it's a pretty easy shield bait again with xXR, and honestly, if he doesn't shield this, he's just in Volt Switch range. So he does go for the shield. Good call by him, but like I said, my Charge Bug actually does have quite solid IVs, so I could tank the Drill Run. I knew I was able to tank this, so I'd be fine. I didn't really care if I threw on Charge Attack priority. I just want to get rid of this Alolan Sandslash, and realistically, there's nothing really he could beat me in the back. The only thing, like I said, that truly counters Bastiodon, especially in the 0 shields, is that Regiseal. Alolan Sandslash was the second best counter, and that's out of the way. It shields down my Bastiodon just so strong in his team. So he does show his Trevenant, and I'm just going to bring Gligar right away. There's a chance that he could catch the Aerial Ace, but if he does, then I just leave with a Flamethrower, and I just beat the Trevenant later anyway. So my play was just throw right when I had it, and if he makes it catch, great. But there's just no win condition if I just play it out straightforward. So yeah, that's what I ended up doing, and he didn't bring Regiseal, which again, his only true counter to the Bastiodon, which is why, yeah, it looked very good in his team. Like I said, it looks very good into a lot of teams. It looked incredibly good into XXRubixMasterXx team, and honestly, that kind of really shifted my whole mindset going to day number 2, and I started really picking apart teams and saying, you know what? This thing's actually pretty good in this meta. Like I said, in past metas, when you had Lantern, neutral matchups, you had a lot of grass types that had fairly neutral matchups. The problem with these old matchups is that, yes, they're neutral and Bastiodon has play into them. I guess Lantern not really neutral, so a little less favorable for Bastiodon there. The pacing on Bastiodon is too slow. So you needed really to thrive and you could say similar things about Carbink too, but Carbink was a little bit safer. But you could say, but just in general, Pokemon that are that slow to their charge attacks, they're much easier for good players to play around because they could bait you, they could throw moves, force you to shield, etc., and really play around you. So that's why Bastiodon really thrives much more in hard winning matchups because, yeah, it just ensures that you can win the matchup. There's no question about it. And like I said, Bastiodon beats 5 out of 6 in 0 shields. So my whole play is Charge Bug is super safe into him. I'm not even going to optimize here because I just need to get rid of this thing as soon as possible. I don't mind giving up 1 free turn. He's definitely going to shield. And then I have my Charge Bug in the back. I probably should have brought Poliwrath into this specific game instead of the Gligar. This was a line I had already tested before with some friends. But the whole point is, maybe my Gligar could sweep later. And even take out the Alolan Sandslash if I'm up a shield. However, the thing I kind of just really neglected is that I still have to shield this Shadow Ball from the Trevenant, and I probably shouldn't have thrown the xXR on Charge Attack priority either. So that definitely didn't go in my favor either. But my Charge Bug has a ton of play into his team, so I figured up a shield I should be okay. Unfortunately, now we're on shield parity, and Regiseal's not that bad into the Charge Bug. So I think the better play here is I don't throw on Charge Attack priority, first and foremost. That's my fault in general. And then the second part is, I probably just don't bring Gligar. Because even if I overfarmed with that Charge Bug, realistically, I don't know if I could actually win this matchup. Either way. Registeel's just way too much health. I know I could tank Zapcan. I know that Alolan Sandslash has energy, so I need to save it for the Gligar. Trying to get a slight energy lead, but there's just way too much energy on Alolan Sandslash. Obviously it left with some residual energy against my Bastiodon, but on top of that, it got maybe like another Shadow Claw or so against the Charge Bug. Yeah. So I was just like, yeah, there's really no play here too. I mean, if I shield this Ice Punch, my Charge Bug can't take out the Alolan Sandslash anyway. So my only hope was that, you know, he had a little bit less energy than I anticipated, and maybe I could get a Dig Off, and then I could get a Discharge off once that final shield is gone. But at this point in time, it's kind of tough. So Bastiodon, not as good into this specific matchup. He did go ABA again this matchup, so ABA into Poliwrath, really. I mean, Poliwrath lead would have been pretty brutal, but it was a great gamble by him. And I think it worked out too, just because he knew that he knows that my team's not the best into his team. I mean, he's got 3 strong checks to Poliwrath, and then kind of a more, well, I guess the other 3 are actually not that bad. The other 3 actually do win against him, but had to be a gamble he plays into my team. I think overall that does make a lot of sense too, just because when you have a team comp disadvantage, you kind of have to go more risky lines and more risky ABAs. And in my opinion, he does have a disadvantage to my team comp. Not only just for that Bastiodon is really strong into it, but Charge Bug is just super safe into his whole team composition. So there's a lot more play for my team than his. This was another team composition I had already drafted. Again, Charge Bug, just no reason not to bring. But I decided to go Gligar in the lead, and he does go ABA weak to it again, which worked out really well. And I think he's just not respecting that I would bring Poliwrath, which I think makes sense because I didn't even think about bringing it, because Poliwrath lead here would, again, be really, really strong. But so is Gligar lead. And so I knew that he's probably ABA weak to it at this point in time. So I'm just going to overfarm for sure. Could definitely do pretty good in this Registeel matchup. I think he goes for a catch. Yeah, he does go for the catch. And then we have the Charge Bug. I probably should have shielded this first Dark Pulse. It's a very safe shield in general, but I wasn't sure if... So I guess at the same time, I didn't want to spend the shield because he's ABA weak to Gligar, which means that he likely has a trap in the back. Because Cresselia is not that bad as a Gligar. It pretty much eliminates all potential other options at that point in time. Alolan Sandslash is good into it. Azumarilla's good into it. So I figured he has a trap in the back. So at this point in time, I'm not even sure if I really need Switch Advantage, but I do have the Lickitung, so I'm going to shield anyway, just in case I'm wrong and it's not Gligar on the back. The other reason is also just Charge Bug has so much play into his team, so having health and some energy remaining on Charge Bug is not a terrible idea. At this point in time, I know that I could tank the Dark Pulse, so this is okay. Doesn't quite KO, but that's fine. He is going to throw the Dark Pulse. I have some residual energy. At this point in time, I'm feeling pretty good. I have a good matchup in lead. Lickitung pretty much beats everything as well outside of Mana Buzz and Registeel, and we already saw both. So there's really, realistically, not too many win cons for him. But yeah, I think, like I said, day number 1, I played it really poorly, and he played it really well, given his team composition disadvantage. But day number 2, I definitely had to capitalize on the advantages I had. Yeah, so able to draw this out. And I think also the Registeel Trevenant match line makes sense for Rubik's Master because he's really weak to Bastiodon, right? And these are the 2 main checks to it. I guess, and the Alolan Sandslash to a degree, but he probably didn't want to run ABA weak to Poliwrath in the lead again, just in case, or that weak to Poliwrath in the lead. But yeah, so this one worked out quite well. The only grass I really saw as well the entire weekend was on Rubik's Master team too. So, but you know, if I had Bastiodon on the Trevenant, it wouldn't be the end of the world either. But yeah, that's pretty much that first game of day number 2. And like I said, this definitely kind of gave me more confidence in running Bastiodon because I'm like, wow, it's actually really good into this team. And you know, he ran ABA weak to Bastiodon in the lead and in one of the games, and it just showed that a lot of people just were not respecting Bastiodon. And So I definitely had to punish him for that. I ended up playing a lot more Bastion, and you're going to see more in the footage, and I'll tell you why I did. But overall, obviously, if I had Bastion in a good matchup, I had a very high chance of winning for sure. But if I had Bastion into any lineup that was ABA weak to Bastiodon, I literally didn't lose a single one of those games because it's just that impossible. Which is why it's really strong in this current meta, because not only are there a lot of teams weak to it, and we'll take a look at Onion Frank's team too. Chargebug, Skarmory, Shadow Dragonair. Shadow Dragonair is kind of funky. Shields Up, there's some play with Shadow Dragonair. But for the most part, 3 things weak to Bastion. You got the double ground, but similar to Beach and Abinov's team, the Gligar and Vigoroth, it still could take some. It still like has to respect the damage from Bastion and the Stone Edge for sure, and the neutral damage. So again, just really one hard check with Whiscash. But this is still fairly early on in day number 2, so I still wasn't feeling Bastion a ton. But like I said, whenever you're ABA weak to Bastion, you have a ton of play, and there's a lot of common cores that are ABA weak to Bastion, like Lickitung and Cresselia, or depending on if they have Registry or not, you could run Cresselia and Azumarill, or Azumarill and Lickitung. You could run Skarmory and Chargebug. Right? There's a lot of common cores that you'll see in this current meta that are ABA weak to Bastion when they run one of these in the lead and one in the back. And you just can't do that. Or you can risk it, but like I said, if you risk an ABA weak to Bastion lead line and you lock into Bastion lead, like I said, there's just no way you can win it. And so that's really a lot of the benefits that Bastion provides. So this first game, I'm straight hard countered pretty much throughout this game. And I think it took me a second to realize it, but now it's like, wait. Because I'm thinking, he wouldn't run ABA weak to Bastion, right? But he did, right? He did not respect it. Skarmory in lead, Chargebug in the back. I think that makes a lot of sense because based on my previous tournament performances and probably games that Onion Frank has watched backstage as well, for this specific tournament, I didn't really bring it. So I think the disrespect for Bastion is actually quite warranted, especially in this first game. But that's when I obviously picked up on it. I was like, okay. So that's good to know. I definitely want to get this Ice Beam off to see if I could potentially flip switch. Not able to do it, unfortunately. I thought maybe, if I could get a slight energy lead against the Gligar, maybe I could flip that matchup, especially if shields down. If he has 2 shields on both sides, Gligar and Poliwrath, then there's just no way, right? However, like most good players, they're going to react too fast and not actually allow me to get that much energy. I would realistically need 3 counter lead to potentially switch. So I get a 2 counter lead, which is just not enough, unfortunately, because he's going to outpace me on the second aerial ace. Yeah, so there's no possible way for me to pretty much win this matchup. Like I said, we charge like priority on this one, but he outpaces on my second one. One thing I would change about this team going forward is running that non-Shadow Poliwrath, because like I said earlier, it just is a better matchup against Gligar, against especially Shadow Gligar, and I could at least force them to shield sometimes, but yeah, the shadow damage on the Poliwrath didn't really help me a ton this weekend, and it was a little bit underwhelming overall, but because I was so weak to kind of like Vigoroth and Whiscash, Lone Sandslash to a degree, I just needed the Poliwrath. I could have run Vigoroth, I guess, over the Poliwrath, but that would have been triple weak to fighting. I wouldn't have been as strong into Whiscash, but I just can't afford any additional fighting weaknesses. But yeah, I'm just going to concede this game and just let the day go. There's just no way that I could potentially win this game at this point in time, regardless of what I shield. So, recognizing that he was disrespecting Bastion that first game, I bring Bastiodon, and he disrespected in game number 2. So that was pretty good for me, because yeah, there's just, like I said, there's just literally no possible way to win this matchup. I actually take out this Chargebug pretty quickly. it's not important for me to have farm on Bastion. It's something you have to recognize in a lot of Bastion games if you use it yourself, is when they stay in these matchups, they're ABA weak to Bastion. And Bastion's biggest benefit in a lot of situations is the bulk and damage of the smackdowns over time, and then obviously once in a while you throw a Stone Edge or Flamethrower. If you let the Bastion go too low at this point in time, yeah, you might have a move ready, but if they have a shield left, that Skarmory's not going to struggle that much against Bastion with like 5% health. So I figured he probably had Skarmory in the back. Maybe a small chance it's Shadow Dragon Air, but the health is way more important than the energy you leave at Bastion. So that's my word of advice, is whenever you run to someone with ABA weak to Bastion, and you could tell too, right? Like no one stays in Charge Buck into it unless they're ABA weak to it, or no one stays Cresselia or Mandibus into Bastion unless they're ABA weak to it. My recommendation is they stay in, they don't swap out. You just try to take out that Pokemon as soon as possible, right? If it's a Lickitung, right? You could farm up a ton of energy and stuff, but the power was really add up. Same thing with Cresselia. So it's much more important for you to actually take out that Pokemon and pivot out. It's important, obviously, to build a line that's not like ABA weak to whatever as well, right? Like you don't want to run Bassi with a Lickitung in the back. That's just not a great line in my opinion, because it doesn't allow you to pivot out. If they come in Poliwrath, they counter you down, and then what do you have left? Maybe a Gligar to counter the Poliwrath, but then now they're up so much energy, right? And then you have to shield because you can't get the Poliwrath on your Lickitung. So it's always important to, if you're going to run Bassi lead and you run into these ABA lines, you have two like strong counters or two Bassi counters in the back. So yeah, I had the Poliwrath and the Azumarill, which worked out quite well because his main counters, Sebastian, are Vigoroth and Whiscash, and of course a little bit Gligar. Gligar, if he really had Gligar in the lead, I would just stayed in, just weaken as much as possible because the wing attacks aren't doing much. I just have to shield the digs, and it's unlikely he baits anything else. So I just need to put it quite low because there's no, I'm ABA weak to it, and there's no, like, I'm going to do terrible with Poliwrath on in the back. So that was my plan if he actually did have a Gligar in the lead. But yeah, he didn't respect it, so I felt pretty confident in that game the moment that he didn't swap out. Game number 3, so he didn't respect Bastion in the lead for both games, so I figured he would at least respect it in this game, right? So he might have a Bastion counter lead or two Bastion counters at back, but he's not going to run ABA weak to Bastion, which means that if he ran a Skarmory lead, which is what happened, he wouldn't have a Charge Buck in back, which means that my Zumarill was pretty much free. There's really nothing else that checks his Zumarill consistently on his team. So that's, and as expected, he didn't swap out. So laying this Ice Beam was crucial. I knew that I couldn't really shield anything at this point in time because I'm ABA weak to Skarmory. Me committing a shield here does nothing for me because it's my true counter for the Skarmory. And if I'm down a shield and he locks it into a soft check to Azumarill, like a Whiscash, even Vigoroth to a degree soft check, I'm not only down a shield, but I lost my only counter. So it really makes no sense for me to shield. My only play is weaken the Vigoroth enough, come out with energy on the Gligar. But yeah, getting the Vigoroth out was huge because it allows my Lickitung to actually have a lot of play in the back. But my whole play is the Skarmory's chipped, so I have definitely some win conditions against it with even Gligar and Skarmory, despite the fact that Skarmory walls those two Pokemon off. But on top of that, I just need to maintain my 2 shields apiece against his 2 shields. So yeah, we're going to farm as much energy as possible here. But again, I can't really shield anything. I just need to rely on some neutral lick damage and some resisted body slams to take out the Skarmory, and then whatever else is in the back. He doesn't really have anything frail and super weak to Lickitung in the back, so I know it's going to be an uphill battle for sure. But I'm expecting maybe a Whiscash or Gligar because he wants to be strong into Bastion. We do get off the Aerial Ace. I kind of wish I had a dig stored as well, but unfortunately just could not risk going for that energy. Pretty sure I would have just been taken out at that point in time. He's coming Skarmory. I had to swap out. I do have the Aerial Ace for a potential common play, and as expected, he's ABB strong into Bastiodon because I was ABA into that Skarmory. My second A at least has some play into his final B. I'm going to shield at least one Scald. It's very unlikely that wouldn't be a Scald because I don't have to shield at least one and save the other shield for the Skarmory. I didn't even build up to the Power Whip because in my opinion, it's more risky to go for the Power Whip in 2 shields because if I land it, fantastic. If I don't land it, I just lose this matchup even harder because I just wasted all this energy. And it means that I just get to less body slams or at a slower pace. So I knew that I was going to force his shields anyway, going straight body slam. So I'd rather just do this, and we do eventually get it. Yeah, yes, I would have pretty much won the game if I built up to power whip and threw it and he didn't shield it. But then I just lose the game, in my opinion, if he shields it. So I just went for the safe play instead. I could try to go for a combo play, which is what I do. Incredible read, actually, from Onion Frank to catch the combo play. If he doesn't catch this combo play, I might potentially just win this game. I'm not sure. But, yeah, really smart call by him. And at this point in time, yeah, because let's think about this theoretically. I don't know if he gets another Sky Attack or not, but I would potentially get to a Power Whip, and then he would have to throw his energy on Whiscash, and then I could throw the Aerial-Ace. I don't know if he's actually in Aerial-Ace range. I just was hoping to survive the Scald, but he didn't throw it. And after the fact, we talked about it, and what happened was he forgot which side Scald was on. So he wanted to throw one mud shot so that he knew which side it was on in the throw, because he thought that I wasn't at the Power Whip yet. Especially because that's why he went Brave Bird, so I don't get as much energy farmed off that Skarmory. But yeah, that's pretty much what we discussed there too. So really well played by him. Got a little lucky there in the end. That's pretty much what you have to do. Sometimes you don't have the team compositions for your opponents, so you have to play for your win cons and maybe hopefully mess up from time to time. Going against Leo Geo now, and his team's a little bit different than the other ones I face. He does have that Skeldurge, and he has the Deoxys Defense, which it's not Poliwrath, so my Bastion has a lot more play into it. It's similar to Vigoroth in the sense that I'm not going to win it in most situations, but I can actually hit back quite a bit, especially if I have an energy lead. So at this point in time, I'm thinking, you know what? I'm leaning into Bastion for this one. It's actually pretty good into his team. He's got the Lickitung, Skeldurge, Azumarill. 3 hard losses to Bastion. I think he had a Cresselia too, right? If I'm not mistaken. Let's double check when we see when the matchup actually pulls up. So he has a Registeel. Okay, yeah. So he has Registeel and Whiscash, 2 hard checks to Bastiodon. The Deoxys Defense not terrible into Bastion, especially if I have an energy lead or shields are down, right? Because the shields are more important for him than for me in that matchup. And then I have 3 hard wins with Lickitung, Skeldurge, and Azumarill. So, in my opinion, a little better than 50% odds. And this is one of those games where he didn't expect the Bastion lead, and he's ABA weak to Bastion. He has Azumarill in the back. And like I said, in these situations, you want to just get rid of this Lickitung, because I know that he has a Skeldurge or a Azumarill in the back, right? It doesn't make any sense for him not to have any of the other things. And both are actually possible options. He tries to go for a catch, and then we go into the Gligar. There's not really any reason for me to go Poliwrath in that situation. Now, of course, if he led the Deoxys Defense, what's my play? I'd probably just stay in Bastiodon. Again, not terrible in the neutrals. I don't win that, but I need to protect my Poliwrath somehow. But luckily, he does go for the swap, and this is really only true Bastion counter. And on top of that, it's kind of a soft counter, right? It's not the Whiscash, not the Deoxys Defense, or not the Registeel. And I'm feeling pretty good, but I am going to shield either way because I get a lot of value out of this Gligar. It has neutral play into the Lickitung. It has solid play into the rest of the team composition as well. I just need to throw on Charge Attack Priority. I doubt that, I could have farmed one more. I kind of lost the count there, but I doubt he would shield this, and I definitely survive the Psycho Boost if he does. So we are down a shield, but we have a ton of energy, and he finally shows his 3rd Pokemon, which is Azumarill. This is fine, because we not only can weaken the Azumarill, but none of the charge attacks from Azumarill really hurt my Bastion. So even if he bubbles me down, it's all good. Honestly, the bubble damage is more threatening than the actual charge attack. So him bubbling me down is fine. But look at how the health on Azumarill, right? So now my Poliwrath is pretty much free. It's in a really good spot. I still have the alignment that I want, or the switch advantage, I should say. And yeah, I'm just going to bring Bastion in here. I'm strong to Lickitung with my Poliwrath, so it's fine too. And it's already quite weak, the Lickitung. And again, it's a good situation because he is, throwing his energy too. I just did a little pause there so that He's not catching the move on his Lickitung, but honestly, even if you catch on Lickitung, it's not the end of the world. He ends up swapping over, going for calm play. I was trying to swap over and counter swap against the Lickitung. I probably would have shielded Power Whip if that was the case, though, but that's fine. He ends up throwing it, and I decided not to shield because at this point in time, with this much health and now an energy, some energy on my Poliwrath, I knew that I could just beat the Azumarill at this point. I could throw the Icy Wind, debuff it, and then just from the counter and the smackdown damage itself afterward, it's fine. And he has to throw his energy, right? I mean, even if he throws it, I could just shield and counter down after that. So, like I said, ABA weak to Bastion into a Bastion lead. You just win those. So if you have any doubt how strong Bastion could be in those matchups, as long as you just take out their lead matchup, there's just nothing they could feasibly do to win that. But yeah, like I said, his team, 3 hard wins, 1 not so great neutral matchup, and then 2 losses, but that's fine. I do bench Bastion in this one. Leo Geo actually ran the same exact ABA weak team. I mean, if I let Bastion again, there's just no way. I do swap in my Charge Bug, mainly because I'm trying to draw out... What am I trying to draw out here? He doesn't even have his own Gligar. I don't know what I'm trying to draw out. But I just know that it's not the best matchup. Let me think here. What do I not really want to see? So I think overall, my Gligar's gonna struggle a little bit into the bulk of the Lickitung. Yeah. I mean, I could win the 2 shields, but the problem is, there's really no point in me going for 2 shields because he has a Registeel, and then he just one-shots my Poliwrath in the back, if that's the case. Yeah, I think, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I swapped in the Charge Bug in that situation. Oh, no. Oh, sorry. I don't necessarily win the 2 shields with Gligar, actually. I was thinking about Charge Bug matchup. Either way, we draw it out, and at this point, I know that there's really no point in me shielding because he probably has a Azumarill in the back for the Gligar, and my Poliwrath is quite weak to it. So I'm going to just farm up extra energy, so I at least have an energy lead. Gligar's not terrible into Azumarill, especially with an energy lead like this. But I just need to weaken this so my Poliwrath has some play. I did not expect the Deoxys defensive back, mainly because I didn't expect the same exact team composition, but I expected like a Registeel or a Whiscash, which would make more sense. He is still, obviously at this point I realize he's still ABA weak to it, but Deoxys defense is not as strong, right? So maybe the Poliwrath would be better, and Whiscash in general, like I said, not too bad with my team. So I'm hoping for the Whiscash. But at this health range for Azumarill, I pretty much just need to shield and get off 1 more dig, or grab his final shield. That's fine too. And you can see I'm just going to go for the optimization, and he does not end up shielding, which is good for me. Putting him close to counter / air / range, better for counter range just because I resist the bubbles. And he leaves the Ice Beam. I think his win condition is just throwing the Play Rough and forcing my final shield. Like, there's no way I don't shield it, and then he goes straight Psycho Boost or Thunderbolt, and I just lose for sure. But luckily he does not throw, and this is not obviously a great matchup for me, but we do get a debuff on the Scald and some very crucial damage, and then he goes for the back-to-back Psycho Boost. Obviously, if he's going for Thunderbolt, it's still a valuable shield, but if it's Psycho Boost, then this first shield is definitely way more impactful than the second one. I really wasn't sure how much this next Psycho Boost was going to do because he's triple debuff with my Scald debuff plus the Psycho Boost debuff, self-debuff, but able to hang on. I knew he had some energy on that Azumarill, so I'm just going to counter a little bit extra. I can't get the full counter down, but I put it in a decent range where I could potentially get to an Icy Wind. Yeah, and he doesn't shield, which is quite nice for me. Because I think theoretically he could also just throw Ice Beam at my Gligar at that point in time. But I don't know if he is able to actually fully get the counter down or not. He throws on Charge Attack priority in that situation, which pretty much is nail in coffin for him. So a little unfortunate for Leo Geo there, but I was able to kind of wiggle my way out of that second game. Slightly tough matchup for sure. But yeah, we are going into the loser semifinals, and I'm facing against my friend, my teammate, Ramberto. Faced him in the grand finals of San Diego last year as well. and I lost. So I want a little bit of redemption. He's running a team very similar to Abhinav and Beach. I'm trying to think what's the difference. I think it's... No, does he have the same exact team? I think it's the same exact team. Oh, no, they have a Lickitung instead of Skarmory. That's what it is. But either way, similar compositions, right? 3 hard losing matchups in Charjabug, Skarmory, Azumarill. And then 2 losing matchups, but soft losing in the Vigoroth, the Gligar, and then Whiscash, hard losing, of course. So 3 guaranteed strong matchups, 2 matchups that have a little bit play in, 1 that have 0 play in. So this is when I'm just, at this point in time, I'm just leaning into Bastiodon. I'm like, you know what? This meta is actually really good for it. And I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. And I know a lot of people think that it's kind of really bad and really RPS and really hard to run in Show 6. But I'm sitting here and thinking, you know what? What if I'm actually, for once, a step ahead of the curve in thought process here? And I'm not just bringing it just to bring Bastiodon. It actually has a lot of play. And that's the situation we're in. It actually does. And so we go into game number 1, and game number 1, he does gamble and goes ABA weak to Bastiodon. And I didn't even realize it because he swapped his only Bastiodon counter so fast. I just thought he was ABB weak to it. I did have the Zoomer on the back, but like I said before, like this matchup with Gligar versus Zoomer is not that bad for the Gligar, so I definitely have to respect it. So I'm going to shield the first one, and first dig. Yeah. And I'm going to just farm up a little extra in case he no shields. He does shield this first Ice Beam. I don't really want to shield his next dig before he shields again, because I know I can still win this once, right? If I shield again here, it puts me in a tough spot, especially if he has like a Whiscash or a Vigoroth in the back where up a shield, there's some play, right? Especially into my Gligar. Yeah, like especially a Whiscash in the back, right? Whiscash is not great. But this is the only way I could really maintain my switch advantage is coming in Zimbohanen. If I come my own Gligar, that's a different story. So he does finally double shield, which makes me think, okay, he's ABB weak, ABB strong into Bastiodon. So I really need this alignment. Obviously this could be a dig, so I'm going to respect it. Ends up being an aerial ace, which is fine though, because I'm just able to win out the 2s at this point in time. And he doesn't get the aerial ace off. I think I do survive that aerial ace either way, but more importantly, he's just ABA weak to Bastiodon. So, like I said, this is just unwinnable if opponents make this risk. I don't think it's a terrible risk, honestly, because if their only lose con is a Bastiodon lead, I mean, yeah, there's a good chance I don't even bring Bastiodon on my team, let alone the lead. So it's not the worst risk by them. But it's also not a bad risk by me to lead Bastiodon in this meta. So this is one of those games where I just kind of capitalize on it. I don't remember which game this is that I'm ABA strong with Bastiodon, but I could definitely credit at least like 5 of my wins this weekend off of Bastiodon running into ABA weak teams. And that honestly saved me. Right, if I didn't win those 5, 6, 7 games in those situations, I would have probably been eliminated a long time before this. But at this point in time, I realized that he's ABA weak to it. I just need, again, to throw the Stone Edge in between the bubble so that he doesn't catch. And my whole play here is to just take out both the Azumarill and the Skarmory with my Bastiodon so that he doesn't actually see my third. He actually commented, he's like, oh, here comes the Lickitung, right? And I never showed my third, thinking that I had a Lickitung for the Azumarill. Yeah, just hiding that information is definitely nice for future games. But yeah, again, looking at his team, I mean, there's a lot of play for Bastiodon. So, and I don't think Ramberto's team is particularly weak to Bastiodon. I just think that, like I said earlier, I didn't truly recognize how strong it is in this meta until the later half of day number 2. He does get the Brave Bird off, but it's all good. And Bastiodon does survive it. He definitely is trying to figure out what my third Pokemon is at this point in time, but I'm not going to give him the info if I don't have to. All right. Going to game number 2. I'm gonna just take a sip of water while that's loading up. All right. I think a lot of people watching my battles were like, why don't you bring Whiscash if you have one, right? Like, his team is so weak to Whiscash, and it's not great. My team's not great into Whiscash by any means, but having 3 reliable checks doesn't make it very comforting for the Whiscash user. On top of the 3 checks of Lickitung, Poliwrath, and Azumarill, I have some neutral play with the Gligar, and Charjabug can still hit back. So despite that, I don't actually think Whiscash is that strong into my team. I think it's okay and a little bit safe, but I don't think it's going to get you the wins that you're expecting all the time, which is why I understand, at least reading into the psychology of my opponents, why a lot of them might have not been bringing Whiscash. This specific line composition is really rough for me. Hard counter with Vigoroth into the Lickitung, and then my Poliwrath has nowhere to go against the Charjabug, and the Bastiodon, on even shields, there's just no way I beat the Gligar. So, yeah, in this one, obviously I didn't know his backline, but I'm kind of sensing it. That's probably the Whiscash or maybe even the Gligar at this point, because it's kind of like Onion Frank, right? After being ABA week 1 Sebastian getting punished, most of my opponents are not going to do that again, except for Leo Geo for whatever reason. Great call by him though. But yeah, so my thought is, okay, I could, if he has a Gligar in the back, I could at least get a slight energy lead with my Bastiodon, but he actually played it smart and he brought in the Gligar into my Poliwrath instead of the Charjabug. So that's actually a really smart play by him. Because he knows that's a pretty safe call, and if I have my own Gligar in the back, he needs an energy lead for it. So really smart play. I do pretty much just have to shield the digs. It's kind of risky for him to bait at this point too, so I figure he's probably not going to bait a dig, and shields up and up energy. It's pretty safe to go for dig. My only win con here is I think on the 1 shields, and if I'm up a Smackdown, but that's just not the situation we're in. And switch timers are unfortunately not up at this point in time. So yeah, not great. I think I go for maybe the Smackdown all the way. I'm not sure. Oh no, he still has a Charjabug. Oh, he still has a shield too. Yeah, no, never mind. That's not good. Yeah, at this point in time, my only win con is maybe I'd catch a move on my Poliwrath. So I go for a pause, but really good patience from him to just also pause as well. On top of that, even if I did catch a move, there's just no way I win this either way. So, yeah, gonna have to figure out something for game number 3. And, like, Beach and Abinav's team, Licktung's very strong into Berto's team as well. It has, 4 pretty strong matchups in the Azumarill, the Charjabug, the Whiscash, the Gligar matchups. Not Whiscash. Gligar and Charjabug obviously not as clean, but I think they're going to have to. He's going to spend like kind of both his shields to really ensure a solid matchup outcome of that. So I figure it was a good lead here, and it actually brought the Azumarill and Bastiodon in the back. And pretty much I'm covering my weaknesses. Azumarill beats all the Bastiodon counters, and then Bastiodon beats everything else, which is the his Skarmory, his Azumarill, his Charjabug. So as long, and the Azumarill can beat the Gligar, the Vigoroth, the Whiscash. So as long as I have switch advantage, my thought is I'm fine. My worst case scenario is a Vigoroth lead, but like I said, Bastiodon has some play into it, so my whole play is just swap to Azumarill, grab a shield potentially, and then have a shield advantage for later, and Bastiodon kind of powers through the Vigoroth. He does end up swapping to Azumarill, which is why I actually throw the Body Slam. I kind of want to force him to shield. And again, it was kind of a similar situation to Onion Frank, where like if he does shield the Power Whip, I'm in a much worse spot. So I'd rather put him in Body Slam range. But yeah, so closing on Body Slam range, and I just want alignment. So he does shield, but I still have my own shield, and like I said, shields down, this matchup is even better for me because I can just one-shot the Gligar, right? Even there's a Vigoroth in the back, my Bastiodon, if somehow is on it, can also potentially take it out too. But it doesn't really matter actually if it's a Vigoroth in the back. As long as I maintain switch advantage, I'm fine because the Zumbo would be on it. So I'm going to just shield the Ice Beam and then go for the switch advantage play. And as predicted, he was not at the Ice Beam yet. So able to go for the Body Slam to ensure the matchup here. And at this point in time, yeah, there's nothing he could beat me with. I mean, if it's Skarmory in the back, my Bastiodon also beats that. But Whiscash, Vigoroth, they're all going to, Gligar, they're all going to lose to Zumbo in this situation, especially in the 0 shields. Yeah, ends up being that. So, again, really just relying on Bastiodon in this situation, and it definitely proved to be very handy against even Ramberto's team. Even on paper, it might not look that good, but you have to think as someone that if you fully know all the Bastiodon matchups, it's not that bad. Yeah, it's not that bad. Anyway, so we're going to finish off this Charge Bug, and then I will be going to Losers Finals against Cobikuplent. And his team is actually very strong into Bastiodon. His team is actually something that is very hard to bring Bastiodon into because he actually has 4 very strong counters to it. I think he has 3 hard counters to it and then 1 strong counter to it, which is the Gligar. So let's take a look. So Poliwrath, Whiscash, Registeel, 3 hard counters. There's just no way I can flip that matchup. Gligar, strong soft counter to it, right? Because if I'm up a shield, Bastiodon has play, right? And I can hit back for neutral. It's not even a Shadow Gligar either, so I don't know if that really changes too much, but that's something also to note. I'll have 2 hard wins, which is Mandibuzz and Cresselia, but for me to bring Bastiodon into this specific series is a much bigger gamble, in my opinion, because my odds of lining it up in a positive matchup is way too low. So in this specific series, I pretty much already went into it knowing, you know what, this is probably one of those matchups where it's not very smart for me to bring Bastiodon. So yeah, we go into the game and I think he's smart enough to recognize that as well and know that his team is pretty strong to Bastiodon. So there's not probably a lot of reasons to run things just to be afraid of Bastiodon. And he does have, yeah, kind of ABA strong into Bastiodon, but I think a really solid team composition overall. That Cresselia is just completely free into my team composition because my main checks are the Lickitung and the Bastiodon. And a lot of the checks to Bastiodon also happen to be weak to, happen to be strong into Lickitung, mainly the Poliwrath and the Registeel. And he also probably recognizes that his team is very strong into that Lickitung, so he's not worried about Lickitung either, because Lickitung technically has play into his entire line of 3 too. But with Mandibuzz, with Registeel, with Poliwrath, honestly, I think his team is actually very cleverly built. And it's partially why a lot of his opponents struggle against him. The other reason is because he just played incredibly well. But that being said, I'm in a pretty bad matchup, even though I caught the Scald. I'm thinking, all right, if I catch a Scalds, it might be okay, right? Because I have some play. And similar to kind of my matchup with Ramberto, I'm thinking, all right, even if I lose a specific matchup and he has a Gligar in the back, I at least can get some energy lead on my Poliwrath. I draw out the Cresselia, which means his only true counter to Poliwrath in the back at this point in time is Gligar. That's a strong likelihood, though, because he is running a Poliwrath in the lead. And then we do get off this dig. I probably maybe should have gone Airways. I think it's in Airways range. I could save myself some energy. Yeah, he ends up shielding for the future sight. I was contemplating if I'd worth shielding or not, but I decided not to because the Whiscash pretty much has to throw Scald at me anyway. And if there is a Gligar in the back, I can't go down shields. So I'm going to throw now on Charge Attack priority. A little unfortunate because I'm leaving this matchup with no energy lead. So still not the best matchup into the Whiscash, but my guess is he still is going to have to throw Scald. He makes a smart play in coming in Gligar himself, which makes my life kind of really rough because... So here's my problem. if I stay in my Gligar into his, and I even weaken his Gligar, there's no way I win that matchup, right? Even especially because he still has a shield. But even regardless, the problem is I can't put it in counter range. So I had to swap Poliwrath anyway, because Poliwrath, like if I weaken his Gligar to 1/3 of its health, I still have to throw Ice Wind and take it out. So it's just completely wasted if I just use my Gligar in that situation. He ends up shielding and then throwing the Aerial Ace, and I think he goes and swaps and tries to catch an attack to Whiscash, which, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It didn't really change anything. I like to play by him because he left with some energy, and he knows I can't swap out, so I'm forced to throw. If I could have swapped out, maybe it would have been nice. Maybe get to Icy Wind, but he already has too much energy. So even if that was the play I make, I just get outpaced. We do go for the aggressive wing attack down, but he's not in Aerial Ace range, so it doesn't really matter. I still need at least 2, maybe 3 with that much health. So yeah, he takes me out there. But yeah, really well played by him. Not really sure what else I could have done in that situation. Might have been a bad team composition by me, or might have just been... yeah, I don't know. But I don't think it was like the worst team composition, but I got what I wanted. I drew out the Cresselia, but just the Poliwrath in general just not doing me any favors in the back. End up running an ABA weak to Cresselia team, and I lead into Cresselia lead, so pretty bad. Pretty rough in that situation. But again, when my main counters to Cresselia are Lickitung and Bastiodon, and I'm worried about his Poliwrath and Registeel, and then also the combination of Whiscash or Mandibuzz into my Bastion and Lickitung respectively, I was kind of in a pickle. I was dealing Cresselia all week and it was fine, but yeah, it was a little bit tough here. It's that double ground combo too, which is very strong into my Charger Bug. So again, I don't really have a lot of clear answers. I could have probably brought Charger Bug in this situation. He was kind of ABA weak to it, but that double ground is slightly intimidating for the Charge Bug. And the tough part with Charge Bug is that it's hard to pair it with things because both Charge Bug and Bastion are weak to the grounds. So I kind of have to pick my poison selectively. It's hard to bring both Charge Bug and Bastion in the same exact lineup. So that's one of the downsides for sure on this team. All right. We do draw out the Whiscash, and it's a little bit dicey. So I think I go for the shield, yeah, because I'm going to just plan on just pivoting out after this. Our switch timers are a little bit misaligned. I throw out Aerial Ace because I kind of just want to get out this matchup. He doesn't shield, but I just want to save the energy and swap out so that I don't have to tank it. And potentially could have called Scald, but doesn't end up happening. But that's fine. I draw the energy from the Whiscash, and I'm thinking, all right, hopefully my Gligar has some play in the back. His team is a little bit weak to Gligar, which is why I brought it into both games. His main true check to it is that Mandibuzz. Everything else is kind of soft checks at best. Like the Whiscash again, like if I'm shielding the Scalds, it's not that bad. And then the rest of the team is just a mirror matchup or just loses to Gligar. Okay, so really great play by him to come in here before I get to that Icy Wind. So now he's still up. Yeah, he's still up some a Pokemon, and then I go for the wing attack now, which I think is definitely the smart play for sure. The misplay I make here is when he comes in Whiscash, because I lost track of his energy on Whiscash. I think I just win this game for sure if I farm down the Whiscash or farm a little extra. I end up not doing that. I end up not doing it either. I just throw it right away. So definitely a misplay on my end. I was thinking maybe he had like, I don't know, Poliwrath in back. I don't know what I thought, but ends up being Registeel, which is not ideal. So we do throw a dig, and I think I leave with a dig banked. And so hoping to potentially catch Zap Cannon. Does not happen. But he does throw a Zap Cannon after the fact. And I just need to get it into dig range. But he made a brilliant undercharge. Honestly, if he charged it all the way full, because he has that residual energy, I think he outpaces me anyway to my second dig. Because I only had one dig, so I had to go for another 6 wing attacks. But he played it perfectly. So instead of having to build up to his Zapcan again, he... oh, I guess I could go aerial ace after the dig. So maybe, yeah, maybe there was a slight win con. But no, he just played it perfectly. So yeah, I knew at this point in time there's no way this takes out the Registeel. It was kind of close, but not quite. So yeah, down 0-2 in the losers finals. Not the best. But again, I was expecting him to eventually bring Mana Buzz, which is what he does in this final game, or in the third game, I should say. And maybe my Bastion has some play. Part of it was I'm trying to catch a Mana Buzz somewhere. I obviously had to plan if I ran to Registeel, Whiscash, or Poliwrath. Again, this is a true coin flip. Like I said, this is actually a really hard team composition to bring Bastion into, but his Cresselia was just completely unchecked for me, and it was just way too hard for me to like play around. Obviously, Lickitung can also beat it. Charge Bug can too, but like when he has double ground for the Charge Bug, and he has the Registeel and the Poliwrath for the Lickitung, might as well just bring the hardest counter if I can. And that's exactly what I did, and I ended up catching him in an ABA situation. And like I said, if you're ABA weak to Bastion and show 6, there's just no winning into the Bastion. But yeah, that was kind of my main reasons, and I think maybe my final reason is this is probably going to be my last game of the weekend. So might as well go down with Basti if I have to. But it actually found the perfect lead and perfect team composition, which honestly, like this game and this series was probably one of my favorites of the whole weekend. Really great plays by Kobe in general, but also just to go down 0-2 and find a way to sweep, and the pivotal point being Bastiodon in that reverse sweep, which is kind of the icing on the cake. I don't think I could have imagined a better scenario to start a reverse sweep, I guess. As for me personally. So, like I said, fantastic situation here, and I just need a shield advantage at this point in time, and I should be good because I don't really care if I lose this matchup. What I could do is just counter down this Cresselia, but I knew I survived this Grass Knot anyway. If I have a shield advantage, I was pretty confident that I could just beat his whole back line, especially with what I brought. Again, Gligar's just so safe into his team unless it's on the Mana Buzz. There's a chance it could go on the Mana Buzz at this point in time, but up a shield and still having the Poliwrath, like, I felt pretty good. And he actually ends up swapping, trying to maybe snipe me down with the Snarl, because at least Snarl is neutral, whereas Psycho is resisted. But does not end up happening, and we land a Stone Edge, which is even better. And then I come in Poliwrath. I do have to shield 1 Aerial Ace, and the main reason why I'm shielding my Poliwrath, I know I could tank one, is I want some health on this in case his last Pokemon is a Whiscash. Obviously, if it's a Gligar, I'm okay, because I could just throw Icy Wind and then come in my own. But Whiscash in the back is my lose condition if I don't preserve this Poliwrath. So that was my main thought process. As long as we're on even shields, we should be okay. And I still have, 2 full Pokemon. He ends up coming in with Cresselia, which I actually was a little surprised he shielded this Icy Wind, but that made me think, again, if he has a Whiscash in the back, I really need this Poliwrath. My Poliwrath can't really one-shot the Whiscash, but as long as I put it in Aerial Ace / Dig range, I'm fine, because I know my Gligar could tank 1 Scald. So that's why I'm going to shield. And ends up being Registeel on the back, so it worked out anyway. Take a drink of water real quick. My play here, I wasn't even trying to throw on Charge Attack priority with the Zap Cannon. I was trying to catch the Zap Cannon. Because if I get to the Scalds, even if I don't make the catch successfully, I can still throw the Scald afterward. Part of it, I mean, it's a very unnecessary play, but for me to try to catch something on the red Bastiodon. But part of me was like just trying to get mentally back into the game, right? And making kind of like a fancy flare catch like that. Was definitely a confidence booster that would be nice and kind of shift the momentum a little bit. But either way, I knew that there's no way I could lose to the Registeel at that point. So I ended up kind of fumbling that flare play a little bit by just letting my Poliwrath get hit by a Focus Blast. But it was a smart play by him for sure. it doesn't really matter if I threw the Scald or not. I still had to throw energy for my Gligar, so it was fine. The counter damage was what I really needed. All right, so we go into game number 4, and this is kind of where the psychology of running Bastiodon really can get into the heads opponents. Kobe runs 3 things strong into Bastiodon. He actually benches the Cresselia for the first time in this whole series, which really helps me, right? Because I end up bringing 3 things strong into Poliwrath, and so that worked out very, very well for me. But yeah, this specific game, there's not too much to be said about it, just because I not only win switch advantage, but I also have shield advantage. And like I said earlier, and I say this in a lot of my GBL videos too, typically speaking, in that situation, your odds of winning if you're down a shield and don't have switch advantage are very, very low. It's not impossible, especially if you have a massive core breaker in the back, but typically speaking, it's a very monumental, monstrous task, I should say. But yeah, I was, again, feeling pretty confident. So, you know, in the back end matchup, my Gligar, again, is very, very strong. And with the Whiscash gone, my Poliwrath is actually, my Gligar is very strong into pretty much everything else on his team. Especially with the shield advantage. Outside of the Mana Buzz, but I've been bringing Azumarill a lot. I brought Bastiodon the last game. And I pretty much realized at that point that the odds of Kobe actually bringing the Mana Buzz is very low. And if it happens, it happens. I do have the Charge Bug, but I didn't expect to win switch and the shield advantage, but I ended up getting that, and that just, yeah, at that point I just knew that there's pretty much no combination of Pokemon in the back for him that could win this game down a shield and without switch advantage. So I come in Gligar. I was content on just shielding the Icy Wind and not throwing in case he goes for a catch. He does try to go for a catch, but either way it would have been fine because he would have been catching a Aerial Ace. And he shows the Gligar, which is perfect. I'm able to draw it out. I have a lot of energy for it, and once I get rid of this, my Charge Bug should be fine. I didn't know who was going to win Charge Deck priority, but that's why I just threw it right then and there just to see. He ends up letting it go, which is good. But I mean, I still have 2 shields, so I just knew I was in a good spot. I could theoretically just let this go as well. Trying to signal to him that my Gligar does not have too much utility in the back end, which is kind of true. But I also want to signal to him that I'm not really scared of his Gligar. I guess I theoretically could just shielded or let this go and shield the Charge Bug instead, but that's fine. Because the health I have on my Gligar, well, either grab his final shields or he has to throw his energy with the Poliwrath. So either situation would have been good for me. I was pretty content on that. I knew he was pretty much at the Ice Wind or about to be at it. This is one of the situations where I just kind of stopped counting because I knew that I was in a good position either way. No point shielding that. I thought honestly would have been a shield KO, but he's pretty much in both switch range at this point. He's hoping for a Bastiodon. It's probably his only win con, but ends up being the Charge Bug. All right, so we do have a game 5 on our hands, and it's still a little bit ludicrous for me to bring Bastiodon at this point into his team composition. It did its job in that 3rd game. I think for the most part, he's probably not going to bring Mana Buzz anymore. There's a chance he brings Cresselia. But because I don't think he's going to bring Mana Buzz, my safe swap Gligar should be pretty strong into his team composition. I have a Zumarill that's, I think, probably maybe half strong in his team. Or his team, again, is just really strong, like really well made. Yeah, beats the Whiscash, Mana Buzz, Gligar. Oh, and Poliwrath, actually. So, yeah, Zumarill actually fairly strong in this team, which I let it, but he did lead the Registeel, so a little unfortunate for me. Me getting this dig off was crucial, though, because not only does it stall timer, I knew that I was going to grab a shield or just really weaken the Registeel. We do grab the shield, so that's big. So up a shield is really nice. There's really no reason for me to shield this, which makes me think that he doesn't have the Mana Buzz in the back. Otherwise, he just can't come straight in Mana Buzz. Mana Buzz being probably one of the best neutral checks to the Gligar in the game, really, at this point in time. So he does come in Cresselia. Really smart play by him to throw this applicant, not only in my debuff, but now I'm in Grass Knot range. So pretty good. And he builds up almost a double. At this point in time, I'm thinking, okay, our switch timers are quite misaligned. So what I'm going to do is actually double shield. I knew he was pretty much at the double or one away from the double. I was hoping that I could pivot out to my Charge Bug, but you can see I'm still like 1 second off. So I'm forced to shield again, but this energy is still very valuable for me because he has a ready seal on the back. Like there's no fast attack pressure at that point, so I'm not super worried. But I could come in Charge Bug now and just take out this Cresselia or force his final shield. If I get his final shield, that's fine too, because his ready seal's out of energy. I could just guarantee myself a dig to land. And I'm thinking maybe some bubble damage afterward would be nice. Yeah, don't end up taking out the Cresselia. And I get hit by Future Sight, which is not ideal. However, I know that if he comes in Regiseal, I'm fine. And it's actually it can't be Regiseal. So again, like I said, my Azumarill is good into 4 of his 6 Pokemon, and we saw the Cresselia, so that's one of the checks. It's just Regiseal left, and because our timers are so misaligned, and now he's coming in Whiscash, as long as I wait on my timer, the funny thing is I actually have switch advantage now, and not him, because once he takes out this Charge Bug, which he eventually does with Whiscash, it's me who dictates like what Pokemon comes into his Pokemon, right? Not the other way around. So I'm going to now bring in the Zumro, and I have the alignment now that I want. I am down a shield, however, I'm up energy on the Gligar, and that is pretty much the win condition I'm going for. And this Whiscash is actually quite low. And the Whiscash is really his main way to take out my Gligar. Obviously, the Regiseal can as well, because he's up a shield, and I'm pretty much in Zap Cannon / Focus Blast range. He throws a Scald. I think he probably just threw this anticipating maybe I go for a combo play or like a snipe play with the Gligar. Yeah, I just wanted to save it for the Regiseal. At this point in time, I'm just going to go for the dig. I theoretically could probably get to 2. He lets it go, and then I just go straight for the Aerial Ace. I know some people are like, oh, why would he shield the Aerial Ace? But honestly, like, it's an important shield for him, because if he doesn't shield this, he's in Bubble and Wing Attack range, so he has to shield it. I'm not even going to like try to pretend to go for the dig. I was going to throw that either way, but throwing the Aerial Ace also signals to him that it took me less energy to throw that move, so that I might be close to the next one. So forces him to throw energy a little bit sooner. I think he might have lost track of energy at that point, which totally fair. I mean, it's been a long weekend of battles. This is game 5 too. This is second game 5 series coming from the winners finals. But if he honestly overfarmed there too, he's probably in Ice Beam range, so I would have to throw 1 less bubble. So it's kind of a tough situation for him either way at that point in time. But yeah, this was really banking on him not bringing Mana Buzz after a lot of Zumro gameplay and a lot of and that Bastiodon gameplay in Game 3 when he finally brought it. And it was just me leveraging my Gligar after the fact. So yeah, really well played by Kobe. Honestly, when I sat down, I was like, dude, you're the guy I'm rooting for. Especially if I lose here in the losers finals, like, you're the guy I'm rooting for, just because it's quite the underdog story. We're going to the grand finals though, and this is the same exact team as Beach, similar team as Ramberto, except Lickitung instead of the Skarmory. Yeah, again, if we're looking at this matchup, 3 hard wins in the Charge Bug, the Lickitung, and the Zumro. And then 2 soft losing matchups for Bastiodon being the Gligar and the Vigoroth, and the 1 hard losing matchup with Whiscash. So, you know, I'm shifting back a little bit towards my Bastiodon mentality for this series, because it actually has a lot more play as, you know, compared to the Kobe one. I think that's the main thing you need to recognize if you do decide to bring Bastiodon in your own team compositions for this, is you need to just evaluate how much play it actually has in an opponent. And here, 50% hard win matchup, 2 soft losing matchups, 1 hard losing matchup. So, in my opinion, this Bastiodon has more than 50% play into the team. I do lead the Bastiodon to Charge Bug, which ends up working out perfectly. Abhinav is smart enough not to run ABA weak to Bastiodon, so I do have a little bit of plays I have to make. And this is another reason why I want to run the non-Shadow Poliwrath if I have to run it back. I don't have to shield this Mud Bomb. I was playing a battle off stage on day 1, and I pretty much lost Switch against Whiscash because they shielded the Scald and they got the Mud Bomb through, and yeah, it was just like, and then, you know, I didn't even get a debuff or something. So there's like ways for them to flip this matchup with Whiscash if things don't line up perfectly. So that's why I'm forced to shield. And anytime where you win Switch and you win Counter Swap, and even if you win that backline Pokemon, if your opponent has a shield advantage, you do open the doors for them for a potential comeback. And yeah, that's actually what Abhinav does, and you get to see it. in about like a minute and a half. There's no reason for him to shield this situation. He goes for the full farm down, and this energy actually ends up being quite useful for him. He comes in with the Glide Guard. I'm thinking, all right, well, this is my hardest Glide Guard check. I'm down a shield, but I feel pretty good still. I should be okay. And I was just going to save my shield for the Bastiodon. The bubble damage is adding up quite a bit. And one potential play I could make is I just go straight for fast attack pressure at this point in time. But I do decide to throw the Ice Beam instead. Maybe if I just go straight bubble and smackdown, I just win this. I don't know. Because the Charger Bug's actually quite low on health. And theoretically, yeah, I end up throwing this at bad timing. But I'm thinking, all right, well, I just get to one Stone Edge, it should be fine. But again, as a Bastion expert, I neglected to realize that it does take Bastion quite a bit of time to get to its charge attacks. So yeah, a little unfortunate. Yeah, we get a little bit more damage. Again, if I just didn't throw those moves, I think I just go straight fast attacks. Yeah. This game is definitely one I've had some misplays for sure. I could have also just called this bait, but that's kind of a 50-50 call at that point in time. I think I just go straight fast attacks. I'm okay. And I was trying to go for the catch because at that point I knew he had a ton of energy and a really good pivot over to the Charger Bug. Honestly, if I don't go for that catch, I also might win that. The reason why the catch also like set me up for failure is because it allowed this Charger Bug to get another volt switch through, and that's what allowed him to go for the double discharge. Because one dig plus one discharge is probably not enough. Yeah, at this point in time we do have to move, but it's charge attack priority, and then he gets to dig off that one shots me. So really crazy well played by Abhinav. A couple misplays by me in that game to mess it up. I honestly, when that happened and I lost that, I literally just like audibly was like, wow. I was like, I can't believe I lost that one. like everything was in my favor. But you know, we make some readjustments and see. So I ended up benching Bastiodon for this series, or for this specific game. Probably for good cause too. He is running double crown in this situation. So but Azumarill does have quite a bit of play into his team. Beats the Gligar, mostly beats the Whiscash, beats the Vigoroth, and I have a mirror matchup with his Azumarill. So it's actually very, very strong into his team. And then, of course, Charge Bug, not the best. And then Lickitung, not the best. But 3 positive matchups and then 1 mirror matchup. So, honestly, I probably should have leaned a little bit more on Azumarill throughout this series. I do lean on it a decent amount, but as you'll see in the reset, it doesn't actually work out as well. And I remember my matchup versus Kobe as well. Like, I'm in a pretty good spot with Azumarill into Whiscash, so I wasn't super worried. I'm going to go straight for the Ice Beam at this point in time. And yeah, I'm expecting that there's probably a Gligar on the back. Especially after Bastion in the first game. There's probably a strong chance. Gligar or Vigoroth are the 2 options. Because there's that, I can't really feasibly swap out, because if I swap to Gligar and he takes out my Gligar with his Lickitung, then my Charge Bug has nowhere to go. So, I'm unfortunately not able to get my Play Rough off, but he at least spends all of his energy. I come in Charge Bug expecting the Gligar on the back, and that's exactly what it is. The problem is now I'm behind by like 2 wing attacks. So this is actually quite bad for me. And I'm thinking, right, how do I take this out? Because I had to spend both shields probably to take this out. But he has 2 shields as well. And then, yeah, shields down, my Charge Bug is going to struggle versus the Lickitung. And I throw on Charge Attack priority just to understand exactly who's going to win it. And he is going to win Charge Attack priority. So not good for me by any means. So now I'm just going to have to throw before Charge Attack priority to try to take this thing out. He shields though. I'm almost at the double. But I didn't shield the first one, so that's why there's a health difference. So, something very interesting happens in this specific matchup. Because he went Charge Attack priority, his Gligar is just more attack weighted, a little bit less health. And we're going to see right here, so a slight misplay by him, but, you know, again, easy to lose track counts. I ended up getting this move off, which I was surprised. I thought he was going to throw on Charge Attack priority. And funny enough, it actually knocks out his Gligar. And that was really funky to me, because I'm sitting here thinking, wait, how did I take out his Gligar and win the mirror matchup when I'm not only down by 2 wing attacks, but I'm also up a shield. Like, I'm thinking, wait, I spent only 1 shield and he spent 2, and he was up by 2 wing attacks, right? So theoretically speaking, even if he didn't throw that wing attack there, or that aerial ace, he should have still been able to get his damage off. But looking back on the replay later, and me and Abhinav actually talked about this too, because we actually shared an Uber to the airplane, and we chatted the night after too. We hung out after the tournament. We hung out throughout the night. But I watched it back, and the difference was that his Gligar probably has less HP than mine. So mine was able to tank one aerial ace, and his wasn't. So that really helped me too, because so theoretically, I probably would have shielded my Gligar just to get the aerial ace off, and we would have been on 0 shields in the final matchup. But either way, I'll take it. Definitely need a win there to not go 0-2 again in the beginning, but best of 5, that would have been just really bad. Going into game number 2, I really liked the team composition I brought, so I decided to bring Bastiodon in the back instead, and we catch a Whiscash in the lead, which, again, fantastic, because don't really want to see that on my Gligar, and 100% don't want to see that on my Bastiodon. And unless he has a Vigoroth in the back, my Bastiodon has some play. Like I said, it has some neutral play into Gligar if I needed to, especially if I'm up a shield. And I figured this matchup was going to play out exactly the same. But the difference is, Bastiodon has a lot more fast attack pressure than Gligar does in the back, right? Because I dropped my Gligar in this situation. Did I? No. I dropped my Charge Bug. Sorry, I dropped my Charge Bug, right? So my team's a little bit stronger into Gligar in this situation. Not super strong, but stronger. So my thought process, if he comes in Lickitung, I was expecting maybe a very similar line from him, or maybe the same exact line. If he comes in Lickitung, I could pivot out. Why? Because we still have 2 shields. So if he comes in Lickitung, I swap out, and if he stays in, my Gligar does as much as I can. Switch timers are pretty much going to be realigned by then, and then I could just, essentially go straight fast attack pressure into his Gligar. Because I have 2 shields, and the bubble damage over the course of 2 shields is a lot, and on top of that, smackdown damage. So my whole point is, if he has a Gligar, I lure it out, fantastic. If he yeah, so that's pretty much the thought process. Even with Vigoroth in the back, a little bit tougher, but I was expecting Gligar, and so that's why I just waited, and then he finally brings it in. If he saved that Gligar in the back, I still have 2 shields. I just go straight fast attacks at that point in time. The bubble, the smackdowns really add up. And because he swapped out the Lickitung, and he's not shielding the Gligar, it's pretty much over, because Bastion's just going to clean up. And surprisingly, he doesn't throw again, but I think he just wants the energy, maybe. I don't know. It's also very easy to lose track of energy at this point in time, because I had a ton coming into that matchup with the Gligar. So he does go for the full farm down. I do get to 1 aerial ace, which is kind of nice. He's probably thinking that I might have a Charge Bug in the back, so maybe just shield 1 aerial ace and then see what happens. But it's Bastiodon, so he probably didn't expect it, and I'm feeling pretty good about this one. But yeah, again, Bastiodon has a lot of play into his team composition, so I figured we're in okay spots. But yeah, especially up a shield, pretty good. So I'm expecting in this next game he's going to bring some strong checks to Bastiodon, because even the 1 game he won, he definitely had to play like insanely well just to win that. And that was a game I brought Bastiodon as well. So it is giving him some trouble, which is what I don't think him or a lot of people expected. But like I said, like the entire tournament and this entire meta, it's actually really strong. And it's very easy to underestimate. And we lead Bastiodon into a Lickitung, which is fantastic for me. We have a Poliwrath for the Whiscash, and again, I'm just going to shield this matchup. I pretty much was expecting, like, if it's a similar lineup as he had before, I'm just going to have to play better than I did. And yeah, we go for the Scald on Charge Attack priority. He actually shields, and this is perfect for me, because now I know that regardless of what he has in the back, there's just no way that he could win, right? Because we're on shields. Even shields, that Lickitung doesn't have a lot of place to go. But yeah, his whole line's very, very weak to Poliwrath in general. And yeah, I could really capitalize on this. This one's pretty much a wrap, regardless. But yeah, no point in me really shielding this one. I could always shield a third, the next mud bomb if I need to, if he double shields, if I really think he needs switch advantage. But yeah, it's pretty tough for him in this situation. So yeah, we throw the Icy Wind. He lets it go. I think it comes in Vigoroth, but he's going to take a lot of counter damage at this point in time. He just needs something, right? Because he's probably expecting maybe there's a Zoomer on the back, maybe a Gligar. So he needs a little bit energy lead. I do have the Gligar though, and for the most part, fairly positive. His energy lead is going to be pretty nice. It is going to force my hand to throw my energy, but I mean, looking at his health too, right? Like Bastiodon can handle this too. I throw on charge attack priority, which is fine. I really just want to get the move off to grab his final shield. And I think I just shield his next body slam and just be a little patient on a potential catch. Because he knows that he's going to get outpaced the next charge attack. So, and I think I can tank one body slam too. So I could even throw on charge attack priority. But I'm expecting the potential swap, and that's exactly what he does. I come in Bastiodon. And again, one of these situations is you don't want the Vigoroth to farm too much off of you. So I want to leave with I want to finish this Lickitung off with as much energy on my Bastiodon as possible, so I can throw a Stone Edge if need be. He also doesn't really have any charge attacks that could take out Bastiodon in one shot, and he can't really counter me down that quickly. So I just know that as long as I have enough energy to kind of handle the Vigoroth, I should be okay. Which is why, again, I'm throwing kind of late. Or not late, but throwing when I have a lot of stored energy, just in case. Our switch timers are pretty much in sync, so I have a general rough idea of when I need, when I could really throw this final Stone Edge to knock out this Lickitung. And again, the power is just not enough at this point in time. You can see he's spamming away, trying to swap to the Vigoroth, maybe go for a counter down. This is actually a really smart play by him. If he could theoretically throw the Power Whip and counter me down before I do anything, then he has a winning chance of this. But the problem is I still have way too much health, and it's just way too hard to counter this down quick enough. And then I still have the Gligar on the back. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up the first set of the grand finals. So we do go into a bracket reset. And this is something that I just did not recognize at the time. And I didn't really even know until I talked to Abhinav afterward. And he pretty much just said, you know what, after that first game where he let Charge Bug my Bastiodon, and then obviously I brought Bastiodon 2 more times. So 3 out of the 4 games I brought Bastiodon. He just knew that he wasn't bringing Charge Bug anymore. And I wish I recognized that myself, because it came to a point where he just actually respected the Bastiodon. So he was going to go hard Bastiodon counters a lot. Maybe not all 3, right? But at least 2. And yeah. So I didn't really recognize that, because in my mind, I'm thinking I have 3 strong matchups. Azumarill, Lickitung, Charge Bug, and have 2 decently neutral losing matchups, which I excelled in the first series. I should be okay. But that was not the case. He made the right adjustments for sure into me. And of course, 2 Bastiodon counters here. I had a fantastic lead. I figured he wouldn't think I'd lead Bastiodon again, which, yeah, based on his line composition, I think that was an accurate assumption of me. I actually bait out a shield with the Ice Beam. I'm expecting him to be ABB strong into it. And, we do bait out a shield. Now, this is where things go a little bit downhill for this matchup. And it's actually my own fault. It's my own lack of understanding this matchup knowledge. Is I bait out the shield with the Ice Beam. I should go play rough here. It's unlikely that he's going to go double shield this Whiscash. But I'm thinking in my head, I don't even think I'm thinking he's going to shield this next Ice Beam. I just think, oh, well, I just need to throw 2 more moves regardless. And that's going to be the way I win this matchup. I don't need to go play rough. But the difference is actually I do. Because you're going to see this next Ice Beam is actually, unfortunately, not enough to take out this Whiscash, I think. Is that correct? I think that's correct. Oh, yeah, here's what it is. Yeah, so I throw another Ice Beam, and he's going to shield. Now, if I landed play rough earlier, he will theoretically be in bubble range. But he's not. Yeah. Yeah, I think I would have been able to bubble him down before you get to the second one. I probably had to shield this final Mud Bomb, but now I just misplayed. I also lost track of energy a little bit. Which at this point I'm thinking, all right, this is not a good situation. Now if he has a Gligar on the end, maybe my Bastiodon could do something here. So I get a little bit of energy, which is nice. He doesn't get the move off. That was his hardest counter too, right? Vigoroth's second hardest counter, or Gligar as well. But I knew I had some neutral play. It's just that one, spending that shield just did nothing for me. And two, I just maintained switch advantage if I just actually threw the play rough. So a little unfortunate for sure. And then now we have this matchup, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I obviously can't win this matchup, but if I could put this Azumarill in a Smackdown range and leave with Stone Edge, I could just one-shot the Vigoroth in the back. Unfortunately, I just can't get enough damage off. And, yeah, this is going to be pretty bad for me, unfortunately. Winnable game. Definitely a winnable game for me. But well played by Abhinav, and then not so well played by me. And this is the tough part about Bastiodon, is you just can't stack charge attacks. You can't stack Stone Edge. That would be a game changer, honestly. But I can't fully stack it, and me throwing it and then still needing like 2 or 3 more Smackdowns for my next one, I'm just going to take way too much counter damage. My only win con is to go for the full Smackdown potentially, but I know that especially with the bubble buff, like there's no way. There's just actually no way. So I end up throwing, and my only hope is that maybe he throws a charge attack and I get enough, like I get a Smackdown to survive like 2 more counters to get a Stone Edge off. I don't know. It wasn't looking good either way. Because if I threw that Stone Edge any sooner, then I just don't get to the second Stone Edge fast enough to finish off the Vigoroth. So well played by Abhinav. And again, it still hasn't registered in my head that Charge Bug was not coming to play at all. So I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to bring the Bastiodon again. I'm going to double down. And I led Bastiodon into Gligar, I believe. And I safe swap my own Gligar. Which I think is a fine safe swap, I guess. What does he have in the back? Is it Whiscash? I think it's Whiscash, yeah. And then we throw on Charge Attack Priority. I thought he would shield this. I don't know. He doesn't shield, which is a really good call by him because he's right at the move. And yeah, there's just some misplays for sure by me. My Azumarill had maybe a slight win con. Probably not, honestly. But like the potential to like kind of like 1v2. Especially because my Bastiodon could get some energy. But if he's smart, he's just going to come in Whiscash into my Bastiodon instead of the Gligar, and then yeah, that energy on Bastiodon wouldn't actually do anything. So I'm just constantly baiting at this point, and yeah, I'm just thinking this is so bad. Like over the double shield, yeah. I mean, this game just kind of went downhill very fast. I don't know if I could win it either way with my team composition, but this was not the way to win it if there was one. Yeah, this was definitely not the way. So he comes in Gligar. I come in Azumarill, but like at this point in time, yeah, there's just not much I could do. He gives up Switch, which honestly should have been signified to me that he's ABA strong into Bastiodon. There's really no reason for him to shield, preserve Switch advantage. And I kind of realized at this point, yeah, it's pretty much over. One of his hard losing matchups was the Lickitung, and the second hard losing matchup is probably Charge Bug, and he probably didn't have either. Maybe he had a Azumarill if I was lucky, but that wasn't the case. So yeah, this one's pretty much going to wrap up pretty quickly, and you know what? If it doesn't work the first and second time in the bracket resets, why not just triple down? So I end up bringing Bastiodon again for third game, thinking, you know what, I'm bound to catch a good lead. But the problem is, in hindsight, this makes more sense now to me. I'm not really tripling down for a good lead because I had a great lead in that first game in the bracket reset. I had a Bastiodon to Azumarill lead. So I'm kind of splitting even already on this, and in my mind, I'm thinking, man, he's got to lead Charge Bug or Lickitung at this point, right? Or maybe a Zumbo again, right? That's kind of what I'm thinking at this point in time. Like, there's no way he doesn't. And I need to catch a good lead for something to happen here, right? Maybe he'll go ABA weak, but that's another thing I also failed to realize is that Abhinav was too smart to actually go ABA weak to Bastiodon. Given how much Bastiodon is playing too, like that just seems like even a way too risky decision too, on top of all the other things considered. But yeah, so kind of a couple factors that I just did not fully recognize in the moments. But you know, we live and we learn. So losing is learning. And we're about to go into game number 3, and it goes from bad to worse. Because this one, I just don't think is winnable based on the composition I brought. The first game, 100% winnable. My own misplay. Game 2, it's tough. Maybe some slight win cons. Game 3, just nail in the coffin, no shot. We're speed running through this one. I'm hard counter throughout. Maybe not hard counter, but Lickitung just beats Zimbohanen. There's really no reason for me to, there's no way for me to win this one. But yeah, so again, ABA strong into Bastiodon. Very, very strong composition for sure. He actually goes Body Slam here, which is kind of interesting. I let it go. And I'm thinking maybe he goes Power Up on the next one, but I like the fact that he just doubles down on the Body Slam after the first one. Yeah, it was a smart play by him. Just double down, which forces me to shields. I think if I don't shield this and then shield the next one, I don't know. That's tough. That's a really tough lineup just because my Poliwrath doesn't have a ton of places to go. I was expecting a potential weak to Bastiodon lead with a Vigoroth and a Whiscash in the back. And I need the Poliwrath to check the Whiscash. Because in my mind, I'm thinking there's nothing stopping Safe Swap Whiscash except for Poliwrath. Even though the easy answer was probably just my Zumbo just needed to play rough. But it definitely was. Safe Swap Whiscash definitely looked pretty strong into my composition in this specific game. A specific series, but that's partially my own fault because I just brought a lot of Bastiodon. I think at this point in time, I was just like, I need to catch an Aerial Ace to do something, but yeah, this is over. At this point in time, that's pretty much it for my run. Yeah, I mean, obviously things make more sense in hindsight. Definitely misplays on my end. I mean, misplays by everyone in the tournament, but misplays definitely stand out a little bit more when you end up losing versus when you end up winning. But overall, no real regrets, especially running Bastiodon. I mean, yeah, didn't have the best series in this final grand finals reset, but if I didn't bring Bastiodon, I would have lost way before making the grand finals. And it did its work in the first set, and I didn't need to rely on it as much in the second set. All things considered, I think Bastiodon has a ton of play in this meta, and hopefully my analysis on my battles kind of illuminate that for you as you kind of break down the teams, right? The most important thing is just looking at the team compositions the opponents have and seeing if there's really any viability. And as you can see, even into Abhinaav's team, which might turn into a pretty meta team, has a ton of play. It's going to have a ton of play into a lot of teams, I think, in this meta. So best of luck if you end up running it yourself. That's the recap on my tournament run and kind of my rationale of why I did what I did. And if you still think it's just a bad strategy being Bastiodon because RPS, well, that might be true, but if you look at these team compositions, it's RPS in favor of Bastiodon. Like, if you're bringing 4 times, 5 times weak to Bastiodon, even 3 times weak to Bastiodon with 2 soft checks, I'd rather be the Bastiodon user than the other person. And I think you can see that in quite a few of these battles too against some high-level players. And so, yeah, if you decide to use the team yourself, best of luck. But overall, I think it's really solid, and I would recommend using the non-Shadow Polyrath in hindsight, but I think the Shadow Polyrath is still very solid. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video, feel free to give it a like and share, subscribe for future content, hit that notification bell to get alerted right when I post a new video, and I'll catch you all next time. Bye.